little bit closer to home. Rut-Roh Dorow, the new judge in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Jennifer
Dorow, yes.
Waukesha's favorite conservative, Tom. She's going to have a hard time claiming she's tough on crime. We'll get there. But one of her, let's just say, a defendant before her in the court who was sentenced to go to jail, she said, well, you can go home and visit your family. And he stabbed his family.
Well, at least his in-laws. We'll get to it. We'll get there. Tom,
let's start with a case before the U.S. Supreme Court. And this one has huge ramifications. The Supreme Court effectively deciding today whether or not democracy is, let's just say, optional. It's optional at the whim of the gerrymandered state legislatures, like the one we have here in the great state of Wisconsin, right?
Yes.
Doesn't matter how many votes you get. It's a 2/3 majority for the Republicans because they baked it in the cake. Suck it, Dems. Effectively going on 2 decades. So, with that in mind, there was a case before the U.S. Supreme Court. Oral arguments heard earlier today. And, Dom, I think we better update our audience because occasionally I ask you, what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
Well, the conservative bloc of the U.S. Supreme Court could find merit here and throw out democracy. To my opinion, that's one of the worst things that could possibly happen. Dominic Josh Gerstein and others at the Political report, the Supreme Court today struggled to find consensus about a legal theory that could strip state courts' abilities to review election laws passed by legislatures. But a critical block of justices seemed likely to reject the most robust version of that theory that could unleash dramatic change in how states oversee elections. The case, Moore v. Harper, involves North Carolina's congressional map. There, the state Supreme Court tossed the maps drawn by GOP-controlled legislature as an illegal partisan gerrymander, with court-drawn maps ultimately being used for the 2022 election. Republican legislators asked the U.S. Supreme Court to toss out those court-drawn maps, advancing a once fringe legal idea called the independent state legislature theory, which argues that an interpretation of a clause in the U.S. Constitution leaves little or no room for state court review of election laws. And the spotlight for Wednesday's oral arguments was focused on 3 of the High Court's 6 conservative justices. They include the Chief, Dom, John Roberts, and Associate Justices Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh. Those 3 justices will likely serve as the deciding factor in any decision. The court's 3 liberals were extremely hostile to the theory during oral arguments, while the 3 other conservatives, Alito and Thomas, the Dom fringe, they have signaled sympathy for the muscular version of the theory,
Yeah.
both in previous writings and during arguments in front of the court on Wednesday. That leaves Roberts, Barrett, and Kavanaugh as the justices who will likely be the backbone of any controlling opinion of the court. Questioning from Roberts to David Thompson, who was representing the Republican legislators, showed hostility to the theory. Here's a quote, vesting the power to veto the actions of the legislature significantly undermines the argument that it can do whatever it wants, Roberts said, citing a 1930 Supreme Court case that found the U.S. Constitution did not prohibit governors from vetoing a congressional map by the legislature. And Kavanaugh and Barrett's questions to Thompson were less revealing than those from Roberts, but Kavanaugh seemingly suggested that a version of the independent state legislature theory advanced by North Carolina lawmakers was going too far. He noted that North Carolina was trying to go further than then Chief Justice William Rehnquist's concurrence in the 2000 case Bush v. Gore. What a stupid, crazy ruling. Bush v. Gore, which is the origin of the theory that the state courts have overstepped their role and that they should be hemmed in some way. Kavanaugh also raised a brief from the Conference of Chief Justices, a collection of chief jurists from the states, asking how to square their writing about the history of the state courts, applying state constitutions to federal elections with the independent state legislature theory. Barrett, meanwhile, also seemed skeptical at times of the argument that Thompson was advancing, noting that state constitutions could be amended.
Cody, but later Roberts' questioning to Neil Katyal, who represented the groups that challenged the initial legislatively drawn maps, showed how some of the court's swing conservative justices could still potentially rule in favor of the GOP lawmakers without embracing a robust interpretation of the independent state legislature theory. Roberts seemed to be potentially probing for a way to constrain state courts in some way, particularly on what could be decisions based on broad constitutional provisions. He asked Katyal, do you think the phrase fair and free elections is providing standards and guidelines? Katyal responded affirmatively. Roberts also expressed discomfort with the North Carolina Supreme Court's conclusion that it could use a vaguely worded commitment in that state's constitution to free and fair, quote unquote, elections to adopt a precise mathematical formula known as an efficiency gap to limit gerrymandering. Both Kavanaugh and Barrett questioned Katyal on the Rehnquist concurrence, with Katyal arguing that the federal judiciary should intervene to second-guess a state court ruling on its own constitution only if the decision reached a sky-high standard of ignoring established legal principles. The court's liberal justices raked Thompson over the coals. At one point, Justice Sonia Sotomayor accused the GOP's legislators of trying to rewrite history of early state constitutions in an effort to support their point. She also said bluntly to Thompson that one of his arguments makes no sense to me. Justice Elena Kagan emphasized that the impacts of freeing state legislatures from restrictions placed on them under state constitutions would be sweeping. This is a theory with big consequences, she said. Justice Ketanji Jackson argued that the U.S. Constitution's reference to elections being administered by state legislatures made sense only in light of decisions of those states made to set up legislative bodies and delineate their authority, typically in a state constitution. Her quote, "What I don't understand is how you can cut the state constitution out of the equation when it is giving the state legislature the authority to exercise legislative power." Meanwhile, the court's more conservative triumvirate, Justice Alito, Gorsuch, and Thomas, all broadly seemed more likely to endorse a more robust reading of the independent state legislature theory. But even among those conservatives, there was some ambivalence to the arguments put forward by the Republican legislators who advocated for a reading of the theory that would remove nearly all the state court's jurisdiction over congressional elections. Beyond that, Thompson faced the broader challenge of winning over the two of the three conservatives who did not seem to accept the broader interpretation. There's been a lot of talk about the impact of this decision on democracy. Do you think it furthers democracy to transfer the political controversy about districting from the legislature to elected Supreme Courts, where the candidates are permitted by state law to campaign? Alito asked at one point. Wednesday's oral arguments will have ramifications far beyond just North Carolina's congressional lines, which have been redrawn several times over the course of the last decade. A robust adoption of the independent state legislature theory by the court could grant state legislatures significantly more power in setting the rules of the road for elections. A maximalist version of the theory would prevent state courts from weighing in on disputes over everything from voter IDs to last-minute polling place adjustments, and could even imperil voter-passed referendums, creating independent redistricting commissions that take over traditional legislative powers. Some would even go so far as to use the federal constitution to deny state governors their usual role. Getting the Supreme Court to sideline governors would require overruling the 90-year-old high court precedent Roberts cited, which may be why Thompson stopped short on Wednesday of advocating for such an outcome.
Seems like they're trying to set aside democracy, Tom. I mean, the plaintiffs in this case, the arguments being made on behalf of the Republicans from North Carolina. Well, Dom, I got to agree with Justice Kagan. They don't make any sense to me. And there was another earlier posted political article. You know, when something's in the news, they tell you about recent writings on the topic. Back in September, they wrote this article at Politico, same source we quote. Fraudulent documents cited in Supreme Court bid to torch election law. Supporters of the independent state legislature theory are quoting fake history. Just a little bit here, Dom. supporters of a legal challenge to completely upend our electoral system are citing a fraudulent document in their brief to the Supreme Court. It's an embarrassing error, and it underscores how flimsy their case really is. Now, it says this fall, today, the court will hear Moore v. Harper, an audacious bid by Republican legislators in North Carolina to free themselves from their own state constitution's restrictions on partisan gerrymandering and voter suppression. I mean, isn't it for all the right reasons, Tom? You know, if we could suppress some votes and we can stick it to our own constituents where they don't really get to have a fair and free say in who they elect, constitutionally speaking, because to do this, of course, you've got to set aside big parts of the North Carolina Constitution. But it's all fair and love and politics, right? Come back with us. Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It's never personal, only politics.
What grows in the forest? Trees? Sure. Know what else grows in the forest? Our imagination, our sense of wonder, and our family bonds grow too. Because when we disconnect from this and connect with this, we reconnect with each other. The forest is closer than you think. Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
My fine guest, Maggie Dawn, attorney at law. I thought that the laws of the United States were supposed to evolve with societal norms. The vast majority of Americans, 70% approximately, believe that Roe v. Wade should be the law of the land. So that seems exactly contrary to the way the courts are supposed to evolve with our nation.
I'll just say this. The guy in Colorado can't be forced to make a gay wedding cake, but I can be forced to make a baby. I don't know about you, but that makes no damn sense to me.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Veterans, whatever you're going through, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Missed your favorite show live on air? It's easy to find what you enjoy wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And we're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Mainly cloudy skies expected tonight with a low of 25. Northeast winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Overcast skies tomorrow, daytime highs approaching 39. Overcast skies again tomorrow night. A mixture of precipitation likely, lows dip down to about 31. 1 to 3 inches of snow tomorrow night through Friday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 33 degrees.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can join us on the phones, 844-967-2789. Our pal Bill Press going to join us at the top of the 5 o'clock hour.
Dominic, we talked a lot, at least started the show, talking about this potential upending of democracy. And I got to tell you, most of the information I know about this, twofold. 2 lawyers have taught me on this topic. Matt Flynn from Matt Flynn Direct, you know him, you love him, and James Santel. I have heard Jim give a specific lecture on this very important case, oral arguments heard earlier today. So we're going to defer to the expert tomorrow when he joins this big show, Jim Santel, in the 5 o'clock hour tomorrow. And, of course, his big show, Morning Cannolis, each Saturday morning right here on the Civic Media Network with former U.S. Attorney James Santel, our good buddy. And Dom, since we're talking about legal stuff and Supreme Courts, Judge Dorow, Rut-Roh Dorow, he's got a little problem, Dom. And Dan Kelly, the conservative opponent she will face, during the primary, they all go, it's a Supreme Court race. They don't claim DRR, but she's a conservative. As
we all know better, Michael.
And Kelly. And the supposed liberals are Everett Mitchell and Janet Protasewicz. But anyways, let's talk about Rut-Roh Dorow for just a minute. Judge Dorow allows suspects, singular, a certain individual suspect 2 days to go to jail. Instead, the man attacked his family. I guess it was his in-laws, Dom. Does that make it better? The presiding judge on the case, Jennifer Dorow, is running for Wisconsin Supreme Court. Dorow also presided over the trial of Darrell Brooks, convicted Waukesha Parade attacker, right, Dom? This originally, at least the source I'm going to quote, where this one come from? DMJ4 in Milwaukee. Little local news coverage, Dom. An Oak Creek man accused of stabbing his in-laws in Illinois. He didn't just attack him. He attacked him with a knife, Dom. Stabbing his in-laws in Illinois has been sentenced to jail the day before. However, a Waukesha judge running for state Supreme Court allowed him 2 days to report. The news team is reporting, Dom.
Get your affairs in order. Apparently his affairs included stabbing his in-laws.
Well, the good news is, then he turned himself into jail. Michael Liu, 36, was supposed to report to jail December 2nd to serve 4 months. Guess what the charges were, Dom? Domestic violence over the summer. Judge Jennifer Dorow sentenced Liu on November 30th and allowed Liu 2 days to report. According to Will County Sheriff's Department Facebook post, during those 2 days, Liu traveled from Oak Creek to Crete, Illinois, to exact revenge and his soon-to-be ex-wife's parents, according to the Will County Sheriff's Department. On December 1st, Liu fired shots into the home of his ex-wife's parents and broke into the home, stabbing the 66-year-old woman. The 68-year-old man intervened and was stabbed as well. The man defended his wife, stabbing Liu an estimated 17 times. According to law enforcement, all three were expected to survive. Now, Wisconsin court records show 2 days later, let me restate that. 2 days earlier, Liu was in Waukesha County courtroom facing 8 counts of domestic violence-related charges after an incident with his family over the summer. According to the criminal complaint, one of Liu's children was crying and he grew frustrated. The complaint says he threw a magnetic block across the room. Then he's accused of charging at his wife and yelling at her. The complaint says Liu punched his wife in the shoulder and she took the children into a room. The complaint continues saying Liu forced the door open, took a hammer, and smashed one of the children's iPads in the hallway. According to the wife, there is a history of domestic violence. The complaint says it has been going on for at least the last 8 months, dating back to December of 2021. A little bit more. After the incident, a 72-hour no-contact order was in place, so Liu was not legally allowed to contact or be around his wife. The next day, a family friend contacted police after Liu made concerning statements to them. According to the person, the complaint says Liu said something similar to, "I'm going to kill one of the kids and me." When police confronted Liu about his statement, he said he was joking and did not mean the statement, according to the complaint. The complaint goes on to say when police contacted Liu's wife, she said Liu tried to call her multiple times, which would be in violation of the 72-hour no-contact order. A neighbor Liu was staying with called his wife and asked where the family's handgun was located, the children's birth certificates, and social security numbers. Liu was charged with 8 different counts for this incident, including stalking, battery, disorderly conduct, criminal damage to property, and contact after domestic abuse arrest.
Cody, Liu, let me just jump in here quick. I know we're going to run out of time. Liu had a plea sentencing hearing where he pleaded guilty to 3 counts: battery, criminal damage to property, and contact after a domestic abuse arrest. Judge Jennifer Dorow, who is running for state Supreme Court, sentenced him to 4 months in jail with work release and probation. According to court orders, Dorow allowed Liu 2 days to report to jail. It was the next day the Will County Sheriff's Department said Liu traveled to Crete where his in-laws were injured. Judge Dorow's campaign team provided the following statement regarding her decision to allow Liu 2 days to report, and I quote, "First off, my thoughts and prayers are with the victims for a speedy and full recovery. In this case, I sentenced Mr. Liu to jail despite it being his first offense. It's unfortunate he did not report to jail as ordered and instead went to Illinois. It's unfortunate. That's literally the end of the statement. It is unfortunate. So, for a judge who is certainly leaning on her, new celebrity as a tough on crime, to have a case like this recent go sideways like that, certainly things can happen. I think, there's a lot to address here. The domestic abuse or the domestic violence that we have in this state and this country, and perhaps the laws aren't good enough for what we're dealing with. But Judge Dorow, man, that's a pretty weak statement.
Dan Kelly, I'm sure he won't use any of this against her in the contested primary February 21st.
No, none.
Keep it locked. More of the Big Wednesday Devil's Advocates edition.
Shame on you.
Here we are, the young contender, scrappy, controversial, has an impressive reach. Devil Radio 92.7.
Darcy Haber, I hear you have solar panels on your office building. Since when are real estate brokers so concerned about the environment?
Drew, you should know that at Solidarity Realty, we provide outstanding real estate service while adhering to our core progressive values. Environmental sustainability is a big part of that.
So you really walk your talk, huh?
Yeah, I even walk to work.
Come on, always?
Well, sometimes I bike, and if I have an appointment across town, I use my solar panels to charge my plug-in.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Check them out at solidarityrealty.com.
Hey, Brad from Zero Res Madison here. What's the best way to clean your carpet? Well, not surprisingly, it's the same way you clean your clothes. You wouldn't clean a dirty shirt by running a white cloth over the top of it, nor would you try to get it clean by sprinkling chemicals and rubbing it in. For a real clean, you need hot water, agitation, and a cleaning agent, just like your laundry. For a fresh, healthy clean with no residue, call Zero Res Madison or schedule online. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
I'm Ben Thomas with an AP News Minute.
It gives us just a lift.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on Senator Raphael Warnock's re-election in Georgia. It also gives Democrats a 51-49 majority. With Republicans holding a slim majority in the House, Schumer says he's looking to work with those not beholden to former President Trump.
I think there are going to be a whole lot of areas where the non-MAGA Republicans are going to want to work with us.
The Supreme Court heard arguments today over whether state courts have the power to strike down congressional districts drawn by state legislatures. AP Supreme Court reporter Jessica Gresko.
What those of us in the courtroom thought we heard was both liberal and conservative justices skeptical of making a broad ruling in this case.
Political upheaval in Peru, where the Congress has removed President Pedro Castillo from office and sworn in his vice president. An up and down day on Wall Street finished mostly down, a tiny gain for the Dow, small losses for the S&P and the NASDAQ. I'm Ben Thomas.
We tried Dynovite for gut health and immune support, and after a couple of weeks, our little Gizmo was acting like a puppy again. His coat was shinier, he had a lot less scratching and shedding, and he seemed like his happy old self.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Get 10% off your next order of Dynovite nutritional supplements for dogs at Dynovite.com.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
Looking for the perfect gift? Get them a shirt from Untuck It. Untuck It shirts are designed to be worn untucked. They're the easiest way to keep him looking sharp and feeling comfortable. You can't go wrong with their super soft flannels, wrinkle-free shirts, performance shirts with stretch, and cozy sweaters that are all perfect for right now. They even have a line for her. Find the perfect gift for every guy on your list at one of 80-plus Untuck It stores or at untuckit.com. Untuck It. Shirts designed to be worn.
For Civic Media, I'm Terry Bell with this news. Special Counsel Jack Smith has subpoenaed officials in Milwaukee and Dane counties asking for communications with or involving former President Donald Trump and others trying to overturn the 2020 election. Smith is overseeing the Justice Department's investigation into classified documents at Trump's Florida estate and aspects of the January 6 insurrection. A nurse from Durand is out of jail after amputating a patient's foot without permission in May. Mary Brown is charged with abuse. The man's family says the amputation was unnecessary. Brown says she was trying to save the man's life. In sports, defensive coordinator Jim Leonard says he will leave the Wisconsin football program after the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Wisconsin and Marquette were both winners in men's college basketball last night. The Bucks host Sacramento tonight. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. It will be a whopper of a Wednesday edition, I assure you. A fine guest joining us in the happier happy hour, Bill Press. He's a pundit, a podcaster, a friend of ours. And Dom, you know, as we ran down some of the headlines of the day, we didn't even mention that there's more classified documents on Trump properties, right? I mean, think about this. Just before we dive into this headline, Dom, no one should be stunned by this news at this late hour. But the guy's already, gone through the FBI investigation. He had the chance to clean up his books, clean up his house, literally clean the house of the classified materials. He knew they were coming. He brought in outside inspectors at his own bequest. In fact, invited the FBI to observe them. They're like, we know how to search. When we're ready for our search, we'll issue the warrant. But anyways, Tom, with all these known circumstances, Donald Trump brings in outside inspectors, and they find more freaking classified documents. How is that possible? How can he be that sloppy?
I don't know, man. Maybe the attorneys are turning on him. Washington Post reporting lawyers for Trump found at least 2 items marked classified after an outside team hired by Trump searched a storage unit in West Palm Beach, Florida, used by the former president, according to people familiar with the matter. Those items were immediately turned over to the FBI, according to these people, who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive matters. The search was one of at least 3 searches for classified materials conducted by an outside team at Trump properties in recent weeks after Trump's legal team was pressed, I tell you, by a federal judge to attest that it had fully complied with a May grand jury subpoena to turn over all materials bearing classified markings.
Did you fully comply? Pretty sure.
I think we did. I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's just like Austin Powers. Where's Dr. Evil's secret lair? You got to ask, 3 times? You don't have to ask 3 times. Of course you don't. You got to ask once, and then you send in your folks. But, yeah, this is not surprising whatsoever. Emails released by the General Services Administration, which assists former presidents during their transition to private life, show that the government agency helped rent the storage unit at a private facility in West Palm Beach on July 21st of 2021. The unit was needed to store items that had been held at an office in Northern Virginia, used by Trump staffers in the months after he left office. So they got to wonder then, were these documents in the Northern Virginia office? Emails show that the GSA and Trump staffers worked together to arrange to ship several pallets of boxes and other items weighing more than 3,000 pounds from Northern Virginia to the Florida storage unit.
Loose documents, Dom.
A person familiar with the matter said the storage unit had a mix of boxes, gifts, suits, and clothes, among other things. It was suits and swords and wrestling belts, all sorts of things. To my knowledge, he has never even been to this storage unit. I don't think anyone in Trump world could tell you what's in that storage unit. Swords and suits and boxes and 3,000 pounds of stuff that apparently were in a Northern Virginia office with his staffers. So how sloppy is that?
Kind of sloppy? A lot sloppy, Dom. It seems quite sloppy to be.
In addition to the storage unit, crew, the team hired an outside company to carry out the search of Trump's golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, and more recently, Trump Tower in New York. The outside team apparently also searched at least one other property. So, I mean, does that make people happy? I know people have been saying, "Oh, you got to search." I mean, does that satisfy it? Are you done bitching about it, or are you still kind of mad that his golf club and his Trump Tower hasn't been searched? Are you satisfied, Michael?
Are you? No.
No.
Be satisfied by Trump's after the fact, after the FBI has already executed a warrant, after I mean, the guy's got a special counselor looking at charging with him criminally, and he brings in an outside company to come and clean up the mess, and they found more classified documents. It's like finding another body in the cooler. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I forgot about the
forgot about the one on the floorboard. Yeah, right, dude.
So am I shocked or surprised? Not at all. Ultimately, though, aren't these all just paperwork crimes?
According to you, they are, Michael.
So that was another one of the big headlines of the day, Dom. You know, they're big. They're big, but not surprising. But this is kind of a big deal. Any other president, if it was Hillary Clinton,
right?
How big a deal would it be?
I mean, it's well, to the Republicans again. It's this disconnect, right? It's their guy, so it's not a big deal to them. I mean, it is certainly discouraging to see that you give your own a pass. Because I mean, Crudy, obviously, from my perspective, if it was Bernie Sanders, if it was my guy who got in there and all of a sudden was this sloppy and this flippant with our nation's most cherished secrets, I'd be mad about it. I mean, I'm not going to let my political persuasion and my love for Bernie dissuade me from the criticism that would be due him should he react like that. But apparently, if you're on the mega, whatever the cult leader does is all good with you.
Well, along those lines, Tom, here's a headline I found at thehill.com. Trump hosts Mar-a-Lago event with prominent QAnon Pizzagate conspiracy theorist. That's after the Nick Fuentes Yee dinner, right? This is the newest new. Brad Dress reporting today, Dom. This one dropped this afternoon. Former President Trump hosted a prominent QAnon and Pizzagate conspiracy theorist at his Mar-a-Lago club on Florida on Tuesday night. That's last night, right, Dom? 2 weeks after his much criticized dinner with Yee, white supremacist Nick Fuentes. This crank's name is Liz Crokin. Not Kraken, Crokin. Crokin, a former journalist and celebrity gossip writer now associated with far-right conspiracy theories. Well, she spoke at a fundraiser intended to combat child trafficking. You know, what else would you pick as a pet issue, Dom? According to post on her Telegram account, at the event, Crokin said she discussed Pizzagate, a debunked conspiracy theory suggesting Hillary and Bill Clinton and other political elites run a child sex trafficking ring at a pizza shop in Washington. It never quite made sense to me, but I read on. Crokin also discussed the fashion company Balenciaga. I've seen that name quite a bit. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it properly, which has recently taken heat for a photo campaign featuring children and plush bears with bondage, sadomasochism accessories. Sounds like some sort of plush you'd have at the house, Dom. Trump, who last month declared himself a 2024 presidential candidate, made an appearance at the event. You are an incredible people and doing unbelievable work, he said in a video shared by Crokin. It's got to be Crokin. We just appreciate you being here. I hope you're going to be back. The Hill has reached out to the Trump campaign for comment. Trump received backlash, you might recall, Dom, including from high-ranking Republicans for dining with Yee, the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, along with Fuentes at his Florida club last month. Yee recently praised Hitler and Nazis for making multiple rounds after making multiple rounds of anti-Semitic comments and social media posts over the fall. Fuentes, you might recall, Dom, is a known white nationalist and Holocaust denier who has been condemned for racist and vitriolic remarks. And Crokin, Crokin, is an early embracer of the QAnon conspiracy theory, which alleges the world is run by a shadowy cabal of Satan-worshipping pedophiles and that Trump is the only one that can stop them.
I mean, it makes so much sense, doesn't it?
One last thought here, Dom. In 2017, Crokin infamously picked fights with celebrity Chrissy Teigen and John Legend after she suggested the couple were part of the Pizzagate conspiracy. Kronkin has been banned from most social media platforms, but she has more than 100,000 subscribers on her Telegram channel. She's originally from Illinois. She's a Flatlander, Dom, and began her career as a tabloid journalist, much like you.
Yeah, come on, man. And these are the more Trump is consistent in the level of quality of people that he brings around. I think you have to give him that. He's very consistent. I mean, scumbags and losers all the way around. I mean, Satan worshiping pedophiles. I mean, and I'm pretty sure I think there's they eat the children. I think there's some cannibalism going on there as well, according to Q, or at least drink the blood, something along those lines. And for this person and Kanye West and Nick Fuentes and the rest of these nut jobs that get an audience with the 2024 GOP top contender, presidential contender, it can't bode well. And I just don't see what is the point. I mean, really, you're having a fundraiser to combat child trafficking? I mean, do you see who Trump was palling around with all those years?
You mean Epstein? Because I thought Trump was kind of pro child trafficking.
He certainly kept those in his company. So I mean, I don't. How low can you go? Well, I mean, if you got a shovel, you can keep on going, I guess, and that's what Donald Trump is doing.
Tom, it's pretty bad. I went over to Foxy News. I was wondering how they're absorbing the day's headlines. Here's what I found: an opinion piece. Herschal Walker just wrote Donald Trump's political obituary. Now, I've heard that before, that Trump's had multiple political obituaries. I'm not convinced he's dead yet. But here is what Liz Peek says. It's time for Donald Trump to step away from politics. You think? Herschal Walker, the Heisman Trophy winner who led the Georgia Bulldogs to a national championship back in '82, just wrote Donald Trump's political obituary. I hope so, but I doubt it. Walker lost his bid to replace Georgia incumbent Senator Raphael Warnock. We've got some sound, Dom, handing Democrats in that chamber a critical majority, a majority which will enable Joe Biden to appoint more judges, enact more legislation, and put in place more appointees willing and able to carry out his far-left agenda. Walker was endorsed by former President Trump. Oh, she noticed. Having suffered the rare humiliation of failing to win a second term in the Oval Office and having cost his party a majority in the Senate 3 times, it's time for Donald Trump to step away from politics. It's the right thing to do for his party, the country, and Liz Peek claims for himself. I don't think he's walking away. Mr. Trump will not win another election. I agree with you, Liz. He will not. But he might win a primary. What's you right here? Mr. Trump will not win another election. His most glaring political strength today is his ability to energize Democrats, causing not only historic turnout, but attracting gushers of campaign cash for the opposition. That's why I like the guy, Dom. It is notable that the Trump-backed candidates all came up short in fundraising. The Georgia Senate race cost more than $400 million. As of mid-November, Democrat Raphael Warnock had outspent Republican Herschal Walker about 2.5 to 1, about $126 million to less than $50 million. In Pennsylvania, Arizona, New Hampshire, and numerous other races, Trump-endorsed candidates lost the fundraising battles by huge margins. Huge. In the marquee Pennsylvania Senate race, Trump-endorsed Dr. Oz was outraised by Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman by tens of millions of dollars. And similarly, just weeks before the election, Mark Kelly, a Democrat running to keep his Senate seat in Arizona, had raised nearly $75 million. GOP challenger and Trump pick Blake Masters hauled in less than 10. In addition to encouraging record-setting fundraising, Trump-less candidates have also inspired historic turnout from Democrats in Georgia. Participation in both early voting and on Election Day set records. Way to go, Georgia. Unhappily, the results are sometimes historic too. In recent midterms, Joe Biden performed better than any incumbent in decades, losing only a minor number of seats in the House and retaining control of the Senate. And do not chalk up that success to Biden. Of course, no Foxy News contributor ever would, Dom. Blame it on Trump. She says, Biden's completely unpopular. And Trump, Donald, please leave now, gracefully. Because it's the only way he knows how to exit, right? Gracefully.
Never going to happen. They're going to drag him away.
Come back, more devils. Take this microphone out of its cold, dead hand, I say.
I declare
declassified.
And work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The radio show your mother warned you about.
Actual tyranny of a dictator. Dictator's going to dictate Putin. And what did Trump do? Trump kneeled to the man. Embarrassing Republicans. And you're still with the guy? This is your front runner in 2024? You've been smoking some of Mike Lindell's crack. What are you thinking?
They're the GCCCP. We are the Devil's Advocates.
Live weekday afternoons from 3 to 6.
Mama, what does the chicken say? Dog. Cat. Giraffe.
Giraffe, really? Giraffe.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right.
Visit nhgsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You are listening to your local civic media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And if you miss a show or game, find it wherever you get your podcasts or on our website, civicmedia.us.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lows level off around 25 tonight under mainly cloudy skies, northeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Highs level off around 39 tomorrow, cloudy skies expected. Cloudy skies again tomorrow night, a mixture of precipitation likely, lows level off around 31. 1 to 3 inches of snow tomorrow night through Friday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 33 degrees.
60% of the time, they're right every time. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open for your take. 844-967-2789. Our pal Bill Press going to join us at the top of the hour.
Dominic, you might be off the hot seat. I've been waiting for your candidacy to commence in the 8th Senate District. Obviously, your state senator, Alberta Darling, has resigned. You are without proper representation. But thank goodness, Janelle Branchen, who I suspect is a better man than you anyway. Branchen's in. Knodl's in. I see there's a couple more Republicans of lesser notoriety that have gotten in that race. And thank God, Dom, we got a Democrat. Jody Habush-Sinekin announces her candidacy for the 8th Senate District. Thank goodness.
Woohoo!
We're off the hook, Dom. Whitefish Bay, Wisconsin on Wednesday, December 7th. Jody Habush-Sinekin announced her intention to run for an open 8th Wisconsin Senate District seat recently vacated by Dom's girl, former Senator Alberta Darling. Habush-Sinekin is running to be the first Democrat to hold this seat since Joseph Sarnitsky in 1992. It would be a privilege to represent the people of the 8th Senate District in Wisconsin State Senate, said Habush-Sinekin. As anyone who has lived and worked in the district as someone who has lived and worked in the district for most of my life, I am committed to creating opportunities that foster a strong sense of community and ensure open dialogue between residents and myself. I will be a senator who listens and learns from the constituents of the 8th District, working to address the cost of health care, a woman's right to make her own health and reproductive decisions. Holy schmoly, that's a novel concept.
Wow, how very liberal is that?
Maintaining safe communities, ensuring a good education for our children, at a charter school, I hope you mean, and finding ways to ensure that area businesses and jobs can both survive and thrive in these difficult economic times. Habush-Sinekin continues, I feel fortunate to live in Wisconsin with this abundance of wonderful people and beautiful places, and recognize the importance of maintaining our democracy through respectful discourse and respect for our electoral process. As a Wisconsin state senator, I will deliberate and I will be deliberate and rational as I work towards solutions, and will conscientiously bring the voices of the 8th District with me to Madison. I hope that come April 4th, 2023, I will have earned that trust and support of the voters of the 8th. Now, the candidate, Jody Habush-Sinekin, is a longtime district resident. She grew up at Fox Point, attended Nicolay High School. After college and law school, Jody and her husband, Dan Sinekin, who was born and raised in Whitefish Bay, moved back home to Wisconsin in 1995, living in Bayfield and River Hills over the next 16 years, where they raised 4 children. The couple currently lives in Whitefish Bay. Jody is a graduate of the University of Michigan, go Blue, and Harvard Law School, go Crimson, I guess, Dom, and is a practicing attorney specializing in environmental law and policy. I bet she got a better LSAT score than you did.
Most people did. East Coast, highly Harvard-educated, environmental law, women's right to choose. I mean, what kind of liberal madness is this? I can't wait. She sounds great on paper. Hell, she's a neighbor. I also live in Whitefish Bay. I'm very much looking forward to meeting Jody Habush-Sinekin and introducing her perhaps to our fair audience.
What if you don't like her?
Well, I can't imagine it'd be the case. We'll see. We'll see.
Janelle Branch and see.
No, man, we can't. I mean, this is why, and I will not. I cannot have someone like Janelle Branch or Dan Canola represent me. I mean, these are the antithesis of what democracy and self-governance and is supposed to be. You know, if you lose, you lose. You walk away. You know, you practice. And you come back and play the game again the next time around. You don't put a lie in front of everybody. You don't lie to people and say, "Oh, there's fraud." There's not fraud. You had your opportunity. You may not like the fact that Zuckerberg and his organization were allowed to donate money, like most people can. If you want to give money away, they give money away. You might not like it. You might think that too much of that money went to populations that are too democratic. Okay. But certainly that helps some of your Republican voters in those districts. I know how quickly Republicans are to martyr their own for the cause. They're fine with that. Hell, if it suppresses more of the other vote than ours, that's an equation we can live with. I mean, this is totally unacceptable all the way around. I hope Jody gets that, and I hope my fellow district citizens get that as well.
You know, Warnock won last night in Georgia, and that by extension means Herschal Walker lost. And your girl, Marjorie Taylor Greene, seemingly has an explanation. An insult to me. Marjorie Taylor Greene says Herschal Walker's major mistake was not using her, Dom. Should have used MTG. She's got real star power. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene lashed out at Senate Republicans after Herschal Walker lost his U.S. race in Georgia. In an interview on Wednesday, conservative podcast host Steve Bannon told Greene that Walker's loss was a disaster in Georgia. Here's what she said. "This is for Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and the rest of the Republican senators. You guys are the reasons why we are losing Republican races all over the country. And this is your third loss in my home state. So let me inform you on behalf of Georgia, this is your third strike and you're out." Greene complained that the Walker campaign rarely asked her to speak at events. "I was never asked very often by the Herschal Walker campaign to come speak at any of his campaign events. They only asked me to maybe 2 or 3 in his own district when he was campaigning all over the state running for Senate. But they only asked me a couple of times in my own district, which I find extremely insulting." One more comment from MTG, your girl, Dom.
Ugh.
"The audacity and really frank rudeness of the campaign consultants and Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, where they thought, we're going to keep Marjorie Taylor Greene away from Herschal Walker, and we don't need her voice at his campaign rallies and events. where we're campaigning all over the state. I think it is really a major mistake and an insult to me and an insult to the people who support me and Republicans all over Georgia. MTG all over Georgia.
Well, it's all about her. Free use MTG, man. They didn't use her enough. I mean, talk about two, bat guano crazy candidates. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Herschal Walker on the stage at the same time. I don't know if I could handle that. I mean, what kind of jackassery could possibly come of that kind of dynamic duo campaigning around the state?
Dominic, we saw Nick Van Orden, Janelle Brandtjen, Adam Steen, Donald Trump, and Tim Michaels all on the same stage in Waukesha. I mean, if that's not a cavalcade of looking stars, I don't know what is. Come back. The Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Our fine guest and good buddy, Bill Press. He's a podcaster. He's a pundit. He's a friend of ours. Stick around. The Happier Happy Hour, the big Wednesday edition, is next.
You are one pathetic loser.
Do you want Wisconsin to suck? I don't. That's why you're listening to me now. I'm Hawk, owner of the Jade Monkey. Come to the Monkey and tell them you're there because the devil sent you. Then I can spend more money on ads and help Devil Radio keep Wisconsin from spiraling into post-apocalyptic Republican suckage. I mean, that's Iowa's job. Buy a round of the Jade Monkey and save Wisconsin one drink at a time.
Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck.
Okay.
This is Chad Spate. In 1992, I moved to Madison to pursue a PhD at UW, and I started a residential remodeling company called Chad's Carpentry. I was eager to make a difference, to change the world, and I soon realized that our remodeling company was a great place to start. We pride ourselves on understanding how houses work so that your home improvement project actually improves your home, and we love what we do. To learn more, go to chadsdesignbuild.com. And thank you, Madison, for 30.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas.
Georgia did it again.
Senator Raphael Warnock returning to the Capitol today after winning his runoff election against Republican Herschal Walker. That gives Democrats a 51-49 majority. With the House in GOP control by a slim margin, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer believes Republicans, not beholden to President Trump, will want to work with Democrats on a whole lot of areas.
For the good of the country, but for their own survival. It will just not work. It will just not work if they pursue a MAGA line.
The Supreme Court heard arguments today over whether state courts have the power to strike down congressional districts drawn by state legislatures. AP Supreme Court reporter Jessica Gresco.
This case comes to the court from North Carolina, and it comes about because of redistricting and an attempt by North Carolina's Republican-led legislature to draw U.S. House districts in favor of GOP candidates. Those districts were blocked by a Democratic majority on the state Supreme Court, and the state Supreme Court said that the map drawn by Republicans had violated the state constitution.
German police have rounded up dozens of people accused of plotting to overthrow the government. Suspects are described as right-wing extremists. A government spokesman says plans included an armed attack on Parliament. A warning for a United Nations summit on conservation.
Scientists around the world are advising governments gathering in Montreal this week for the UN Biodiversity Summit to not repeat past mistakes, urging officials to avoid trade-offs between people and conservation needs. A new study published in the One Earth journal finds even though there has been an increase
Hi, Bill. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. All right, we are 4 minutes out.
Didn't mean to cough in your ear. Sorry about that.
Fine, you're fine. Well, awesome. Thanks for joining us.
You don't have my video, do you?
Not at this moment. I can send you a little notification here.
Nope, there you go. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Off your next order of Dinovite nutritional supplements for dogs at dinovite.com.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dinovite.
Looking for the perfect gift? Get them a shirt from Untuck It. Untuck It shirts are designed to be worn untucked. They're the easiest way to keep him looking sharp and feeling comfortable. You can't go wrong with their super soft flannels, wrinkle-free shirts, performance shirts with stretch, and cozy sweaters that are all perfect for right now. They even have a line for her. Find the perfect gift for every guy on your list at one of 80-plus Untuck It stores or at untuckit.com. Untuck It, shirts designed to be worn.
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Vive la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
You wanted information as election results rolled in, and the Civic Media network of radio stations delivered it live.
I was so impressed with your coverage, and I listened to you guys, and I got all the coverage. It was amazing.
Civic Media, the only network with news reporters and show hosts stationed across Wisconsin, sharing political insight not found anywhere else. Elections or anytime, we are here for you, your local Civic Media radio stations, and streaming on the Civic Media app.
Rank Seed has been breeding better seeds for generations. Each year, Rank invests tens of millions of dollars to support DNA-level breeding and new trait development. This dedication to research has resulted in numerous insect-resistant, herbicide, and drought-tolerant traits in our lineup. Rank Seed utilizes the latest technologies, including robotics and color sorters, to ensure the highest germination and the best quality of seed. Tirelessly striving to better serve our farmers. From research to results, Rank Seed is rooted in technology.
You've got questions about navigating the healthcare system? Kristen Lyerly helps us find answers and discusses other issues at the intersection of healthcare and politics. Hometown Health, Thursday mornings at 7:30 on Up North News Radio.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Matnair with your headlines. The Department of Corrections has implemented a new behavioral motivation system at the Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake schools. The system is rooted in positive reinforcement and gives the young people the chance to earn rewards for good behavior. Conditions are improving. WestPolitics.com reports some prefer the old system where they could buy the things they wanted versus now where they have to earn them by following rules and exhibiting pro-social skills. Staffing levels are also improving at the facilities. In honor of National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, Governor Tony Evers ordering the flags of the U.S. and the state of Wisconsin to be flown at half-staff. 54 service members from Wisconsin were among the 2,403 lives lost during the Pearl Harbor attack. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN, 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is.
Warning. You are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a whopper of a Wednesday, the happier happy hour. Dominic, we're joined right now live via Zoom by a fine guest friend of ours. He is Bill Press, pundit and podcaster. Bill, happy holidays. We moved into bowl season now. How you doing, man?
Hey, Bill.
I'm celebrating Georgia, man. I got to tell you, big time. Yeah. By the way, I got to tell you, over your shoulder, crew, that traffic's pretty heavy there in Madison. You know, I hope you're all listening to Devil's Devil's Advocate radios are driving by. Give them a shout out.
They can give me the finger from literally just a few feet away, Bill. Buddy, yes, absolutely. Warnock won in Georgia, which means that Herschal Walker lost. And Bill, the difference in the U.S. Senate between a 50-50 and a 51-49, I don't think most people know it's a lot more than one in the math.
Oh, yeah. First of all, it is the first time since 1934 that a president's party has gone through the midterms without losing a single Senate seat. FDR did it in 1934. Joe Biden did it in 2022. So let's just understand the significance of this, and a shout out to Biden, among others. Before I want to get to your question, but I just can't believe it was so close. I mean, WTF, right? I mean, this guy was a blooming idiot, right? Herschal Walker, and the idea that people would even consider putting him in the United States Senate, I think, is just a national disgrace. I mean, shame on the people of Georgia. I have to say that, even though I exult in the fact that there are enough people, particularly, by the way, some Republicans in the suburbs, who came out and said, no, we can't go there, right? I mean, that guy's just too crazy. And you got to give credit to Stacey Abrams, too. She might not have won for governor, but boy, she sure put together one hell of a get out the vote campaign. And then credit to Warnock. I mean, by the way, so what is he, like 53? He's a star. He's a rising star in the Democratic Party. He's young. He's won, 5 elections in the past 2 years? Right. I mean, he's a hell of a campaigner. He's really smart. And as I saw Cory Booker said today, he gets the poetry and the prose of politics, right? He's an inspirational candidate, and he also knows how to get things done in the United States Senate. So and what Democrats have with this 50, to your point, is, first of all, it means that they get one extra seat on every committee. So if you're 50-50, the committees have to be split in half. And we know well enough what that means is gridlock. That's why the Senate couldn't hardly get anything done for the last 2 years. So they get every committee chair. They get one extra seat on every committee, which means for judges, much more likely to be able to get the Biden judges confirmed. If there were ever a vacancy to the Supreme Court, much more likely to have the votes. It means that they don't have to be held hostage by Joe Manchin anymore. Kristen Sinema. I mean, they can just give them the finger and say, yeah, right? We don't need you anymore. And it's an interesting thing, too. It means that Kamala Harris is going to be free at last. She's not going to have to hang around Washington to break any tie that happens. She'll be able to have maybe a more robust schedule with whatever the Biden agenda is. So it's a big deal, And I think if there were most of the wind that was in the sail of Herschal Walker after with the midterms, with Democrats already having 50, right? Then the big argument that we need this to keep control of the Senate just was lost. And a lot of people just said, well, what the hell? For Republicans, it didn't matter. For Democrats, it mattered a lot.
Bill, I feel like I misconstrued Herschal Walker's record. I told the audience he was a vampire guy. I think he's more of a werewolf guy, actually.
I forget what he said. I love what Barack Obama said. Maybe he told that whole story about the movies he was watching, vampires, where he wanted to be one and then he wanted to be the other. But, Barack Obama said he can be whatever he wants. He can be a vampire. He can be a werewolf. He just doesn't belong. He shouldn't be a United States senator.
Doesn't belong anywhere near the Senate, Bill. And yeah, Barack Obama also said that he himself, had that similar debate when he was 7
years old, right?
Our pal Bill Press celebrating with us the Warnock victory in Georgia. But to your point, and I want to get your sense, Bill, I trust your judgment. Herschal Walker was one of the worst candidates ever put forth by any party, as far as I can ever tell, since I've been reading anything. I mean, the guy literally was accused of putting a gun to one of his ex's head. You know, I mean, his family came out against him. His kid was railing against him. I mean, so super dysfunctional, and abuse charges and all this stuff coming out. And the Republicans, you know, used to be the family values and all this kind of thing. They put all that aside. They put all aside because all they wanted, they just needed something to slide in there. And let's not forget, this was Donald Trump's choice. And as much as we like to blame Herschal Walker and Donald Trump, there were also the others. I mean, Cruz was campaigning with him. Lindsey Graham was campaigning with Herschal Walker. They were all part of this. Bill, how do you see the Republican Party evolving from this point forward?
Well, first of all, I think the Republican Party that you and I, all of us, talk about or maybe used to know is dead. Doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it just does simply not exist. It's become a religious cult, right? Worshiping Donald Trump. It's driven by, I think, white Christian nationalism, mainly. The evangelicals have kind of taken over the party, and they got two issues. They've got abortion and they've got same-sex marriage. And they will back anybody, any idiot. You don't have to know anything about policy. They don't care if you paid for a dozen abortions. You know, as long as you're going to go in there and vote against it, that's all they want. You agree to do that, that's all they want. And by the way, then you agree that Donald Trump won rather the 2020 election. And as long as you do that, they'll vote for any idiot, and just did, too many of them in Georgia. The Republican Party has no more values. They don't believe anything. They're corrupt. They're immoral. And I just hope there are enough people who used to be Republicans who can reform and regroup as something. I kind of believe that having a healthy debate about policy between two different points of view, whether they to be two different kinds of Democrats or Republicans, is healthy. We've come a long way with that, right? Yeah. Today we don't have it now. Those people, you got an R behind your name, it doesn't matter, and you agree again, anti-abortion, anti-same-sex marriage, bingo, you're in.
Bill Press, lots of people have tried to write the political obituary of Donald Trump. I saw one on Foxy News.
Yeah.
Here's my contention, Bill. Until you kill the king, he's still the king. And when we get into the primary season, guys like Ron DeSantis are going to pale in comparison to the Cheeto Messiah. He's going to bloody knuckle his way through the primary field like he did the last time. And I think this party, Bill, I think they're going to demonstrate they're still craven enough. They'll come crawling back because Trump will be their nominee, to my opinion. Am I wrong?
Well, let me just say, there's a lot to back up what you're saying. And for the most part, I believe it. Although after yesterday, I'm starting to, this is a bad week for Donald Trump, right? And he's had a lot of bad weeks in a row. So, I mean, the tax returns, the special master being shot down, the special counsel being appointed, right? This criminal case in New York, the civil case in New York, and then Mehmet Oz, right? Blake Masters, whatever. Who's the other? The guy, Budak or whatever his name was, up in New Hampshire, right? So he's had a lot of bad stuff, but we have seen this movie before, starting when he slammed John McCain and everybody said, oh, this is the end of Donald Trump. If there are too many people running against him, number one, and if the Republicans continue not to have any backbone, number two, like Weasel Kevin McCarthy, right? Donald Trump could easily, with everything he's got going against him, you're right, he could easily sneak through and become the nominee of the party again.
Bill, he certainly has not lost the right-wing propaganda mouthpiece. No. I heard Clay and Buck today in regards to these fraudulent convictions now against the Trump org. Well, they're said, well, this is a corporation that generates hundreds of millions of dollars a year. This $1.6 million fine is effectively a parking ticket. And that's how it's playing out in the right-wing, echo chamber today, Bill. They're defending the man still today.
Oh, they defended him after the Access Hollywood tape. I mean, let's face it. That's why I say there's a lot of reason to believe that no matter how bad it is for Donald Trump, he will still emerge as a GOP nominee in 2024 because of this. What? Yeah.
To a Bill.
By the way, he'd be the best nominee we could have as Democrats. We could have, right? Absolutely. Joe Biden would beat him like a drum, right? But there are just not enough Republicans who again, using that word loosely, to wake up and say, this guy is poison. He is killing us. He's lost 4 elections in a row. Why do they stick with this dude, right? I mean, only an idiot like Kevin McCarthy, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, go down the list, would stick with this. Paul Gosar did today.
Bill Press, our good friend. Bill, you're sticking around for a few more, right?
You bet. I'm not going anywhere. I got my iced tea.
All right. More Bill Press, more Devil's Advocates, more of the Happy Hour. We'll be right back.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Matt from Mount World. Welcome, Matt. What do you got for us?
I don't get these people, man. All these teachers are groomers and pedophiles. We need them armed to the teeth. The only way.
Right.
I mean, is your name Jeffrey Lebowski? Because your mind is limber.
I
appreciate you listening.
That's a great point, though. Yes, the teachers, they're the ones doing the indoctrination, right? The teachers are the ones that are woke. Give them guns.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Here's today's STEM tip. Don't throw out that old plastic bottle. Repurpose it by turning it into an awesome terrarium. Just fill it with sand, pebbles, soil, and your favorite plant. It'll grow sealed right in its own ecosystem. Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
It's easy to listen to your favorite local radio station anytime. Download the Civic Media app from the Apple or Google Play Store, then listen live or whenever you want from anywhere for free.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Lows level off around 25 tonight under mainly cloudy skies, northeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Highs level off around 39. Tomorrow, cloudy skies expected. Cloudy skies again tomorrow night. A mixture of precipitation likely. Lows level off around 31. 1 to 3 inches of snow tomorrow night through Friday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 32 degrees.
The Devil's Advocates. Radio for nasty women everywhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Bill Press, our guest. Thanks for sticking around, Bill. You can find him at billpresspods.com. I hear the math of what Crudy is saying about Donald Trump and what could happen, but there's so many headwinds against him, and I want to go down the list a little bit here with you, Bill. Get your take. Of course, Trump Organization, Trump Payroll, or LLC, found guilty of like 17 different criminal fraud charges in New York here yesterday. And while some of the right wing echo chamber might say, "Oh, this is a parking ticket." I don't know, man. I think perhaps, and we've been critical ever since Cy Vance, Manhattan DA, retired, and Alvin Bragg came in, and he, was kind of slowballing this thing. He had a couple of his people leave because they weren't happy with his decision-making process. I kind of checked it off as well. Got a new guy, got a new crew, and now he's bringing in another crew. And I'm wondering, Bill, do you think given how political this is and how you got to dot your I's and cross your T's, that maybe Bragg is waiting for this particular conviction, the fraud, the corporation engaged in fraud. The prosecutors alleged during this bill that they had proof that Donald Trump was a part of it. Now that you have this conviction, number one on that side, do you think Alvin Bragg will come out and start making more moves? What do you think that looks like on that particular front, Bill?
I do think he will. And I think, remember, this is only maybe 1 out of 7 or 8 fronts right now.
Right.
Donald Trump is in deep doo-doo, to George H.W. Bush's phrase, right? I mean, he's in real serious legal trouble. There are 2 investigations by the Justice Department. One on the documents, where Trump just lost his special master that idiot judge should never have agreed to and did, and got slapped down by 2 Trump judges saying she didn't know what the hell she was doing, right? So he's got that. Then they now have the special counsel appointed, which I love, for special counsel to investigate Donald Trump. They got somebody who's an expert in war crimes, right? We talked about this, who came from The Hague. He's got that. E. Jean Carroll, the writer from Vanity Fair, whatever the magazine was, but she's still under New York law suing him for defamation because she says he defamed her when she accused him of raping her in the Bloomingdale's dressing room. He's got that front. I mean, the January 6th committee is now saying they're going to make criminal recommendations to the Justice Department. This organization thing, that's a big deal. What it means is Trump's all about the brand, right? It's always selling the brand, right? This means this brand is a criminal outfit, right? That's what the judges said. Direct criminal activity with the knowledge and the involvement of Donald Trump, even though they didn't name him. So, yeah. There's a lot going on there.
Well, go ahead.
I want to do a quick plug. You guys are always, you mentioned the podcast.
Yes, sir.
Podcast this week. Go the Bill Press Pod, wherever you listen to podcasts. Norm Ornstein. Norm Ornstein is great. American Enterprise Institute. Nobody knows Congress better than he does. Boy, I talked to him. He rips into Kevin McCarthy, Mitch McConnell, and Donald Trump and all the Trumpy Republicans that we've been talking about. Brutal, but a great interview. It's up right now. So, and
just throw out a couple other issues that Trump is dealing with, Bill. Of course, Fulton County, Georgia.
I'm sorry.
That one's there too. We got that one, and of course, Tish James, the New York Attorney General, coming out for her $250 million lawsuit against Donald Trump. Now, perhaps she can use some of this, fraud material that he's now been, or the organization has now been convicted of fraud. And not only that, I mean, it just keeps coming. Bill, the Huffington Post reported that the New York the Tish James office found that apparently Donald Trump or his organizations had some business dealings with a company that had North Korean ties. I mean, it just keeps coming, Bill, and the GOP just keeps hanging on.
I know. Now, since we've seen him, back to our earlier conversation before the break, right? Since we've seen him survive so much, you have to still be skeptical that this is going to bring him down. But I do believe I want to be very careful here. We may be starting to see, I think we may be seeing the slow but sure political demise of Donald Trump. I got to tell you, you have not seen people really rushing to embrace him for 2024 after that dud of an announcement he made. And since he made that announcement, he hasn't been on the road. He hasn't done one rally. He hasn't made one speech. And I don't think, other than Paul Gosar, he's picked up one endorsement.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil Radio Show. We got to find podcaster. He's Bill Press for a few more minutes. Bill, let's talk about the House. You mentioned your guest, Norm Ornstein. Well, the House gavel's about to flip. We're about to lose Nancy Pelosi. And you have said to us, there will never be a Speaker, Kevin McCarthy. You stand by your words, sir.
I want to repeat that today, more convinced than ever. And I've said on this program, check the tape, glad you remember, Kevin McCarthy will never be Speaker of the United States, of the House of Representatives. And the person I said I think could be waiting in the wings, I don't care what he says, is Steve Scalise. All right. today in an interview, Steve Scalise was pressed, right? Are you saying that you could be the go-to guy if McCarthy doesn't win on the first ballot? And all Steve Scalise says, we're going to keep voting until we have a speaker. He would not deny, right, that could be the outcome, which means he's open to the outcome, which tells me he's talking to people, baby. He is talking to people. Kevin McCarthy, I'm telling you. So I'll repeat it here. And, I look forward. I promise you, when it happens, I'll try not to say I told you so.
Bill Press, Steve Scalise has never been accused of being smart, but he was the whip. He can do math, and he knows McCarthy doesn't have the votes, just like you, my friend.
Exactly. Can I add one other thing? Now, this might be getting a little sensitive here, I know, but I think one of the best things that's happened this week, that's not getting enough attention, is that Joe Biden said, Iowa, you are out of the picture, baby. I am this to me is the best political news. Iowa does not represent the United States. The caucuses are not democratic. They're not. They really are an undemocratic institution. And Iowa's too damn cold and too damn white, and forget about it, right? Yeah, let's go.
The weed into South Carolina, Bill. More devil.
Yeah, let's go to South Carolina.
Devil Radio,
I'd much rather be down there.
FM.
You know what? It's on the coast. It's closer to me, and it's got a lot better restaurants.
Right on. Thank you, Bill Press.
All right, guys.
Called the agent working for the seller, and once you see the property with that agent, I'm no longer free to write an offer on it.
So
you need to hire us from the beginning, help you find the right home, negotiate on your behalf, and protect your interests all the way through the process, and it shouldn't cost you a dime.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Hey, Brad from Zero Res Madison here. What's the best way to clean your carpet? Well, not surprisingly, it's the same way you clean your clothes. You wouldn't clean a dirty shirt by running a white cloth over the top of it, nor would you try to get it clean by sprinkling chemicals and rubbing it in. For a real clean, you need hot water, agitation, and a cleaning agent, just like your laundry. For a fresh, healthy clean with no residue, call Zero Res Madison or schedule online. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Coup plot? I'm Ben Thomas with an AP News Minute. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports at least 25 people have been arrested in Germany on suspicion of planning an armed overthrow of the government.
Thousands of police have carried out a series of raids across much of the country against suspected far-right extremists. Among those arrested is a Russian citizen suspected of supporting the organization the Reich Citizens Movement. At least some of those detained reject Germany's post-war constitution.
Democrats will have a 51-49 majority in the Senate after Raphael Warnock's re-election in Georgia. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says it gives his party a lift.
Enthusiasm, unity, encouragement.
Former Theranos executive Ramesh Sunny Balwani has been sentenced to nearly 13 years in prison for his role in the company's blood testing hoax, one of Silicon Valley's biggest scandals. In Time Magazine's Person of the Year, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky. I'm Ben Thomas.
We tried Dynovite for gut health and immune support, and after a couple of weeks, our little Gizmo was acting like a puppy again. His coat was shinier, he had a lot less scratching and shedding, and he seemed like his happy old self.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Get 10% off your next order of Dynovite nutritional supplements for dogs at Dynovite.com.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
Looking for the perfect gift? Get them a shirt from Untuck It. Untuck It shirts are designed to be worn untucked. They're the easiest way to keep him looking sharp and feeling comfortable. You can't go wrong with their super soft flannels, wrinkle-free shirts, performance shirts with stretch, and cozy sweaters that are all perfect for right now. They even have a line for her. Find the perfect gift for every guy on your list at one of 80-plus Untuck It stores or at untuckit.com. Untuck It, shirts designed to be worn.
This is Pat Kreitlow from Up North News Radio. I've been on a bit of a quest, asking aloud if having a surplus of $6 billion will make it easier for Republican legislators to work with Governor Evers. After all, there's got to be a way for both parties to get things they think are best for Wisconsin. Is a win-win possible, Senator Jeff Smith of Eau Claire?
Well, it's interesting question because win-win. Wow. Maybe there will be an attitude change after this election. We're entering a second term of a Democratic governor, and maybe this Republican-led legislature will finally think maybe we better get something done.
Look, it's not easy being a legislator if you care about solutions, but a deal probably doesn't happen unless both sides have to squirm and accept some stuff they really don't like. We'll continue the quest for a $6 billion blast of bipartisanship right here on Up North News Radio.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a whopper of a Wednesday edition. Always a big deal when Bill Press, pundit, podcaster, friend of the Devils, comes around. Thank you, Bill, for doing so. Dom, wanted to ask you a question in all sincerity.
It's hard to believe you, but okay.
Oh, okay, a little bit of Who's having the worst week in politics? And I've got a few suggestions. Number one, Donald Trump.
Yes.
Talked about the numerous ways Trump's having a bad week. Number two, Herschal Walker.
Pretty bad.
His own family, his children. You know, he's got many children.
Many children.
By many baby mamas. And many of them were celebrating the victory of Raphael Warnock in Georgia. So I gotta think that stings a little when you're.
Yeah, I mean, Trump's got greater loyalty from his kids than Herschel Walker does, at least right now.
But I got one more suggestion, one more to throw in the pile, Dom, for worst week in politics. What about Rudy Giuliani?
Rudy.
There's a couple of headlines, Dom, and I'd like to point out Rudy Giuliani's trying to save his career this week. He's fighting for his law license, right? They're already disbarred him in the state of New York. And now we're down to the DC bar. And the DC bar has been basically trying to hold him accountable for his fictitious lawsuits and his failed and fraudulent claims. But Dom, the intelligencer over here, they've got Rudy Giuliani's 5 worst excuses from his attorney misconduct hearing. You want to hear a couple of them?
Let's do this.
I just want to read briefly from this. Rudy Giuliani is widely considered one of the key figures in Donald Trump's failed effort to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. During the January 6th committee hearing, multiple witnesses accused Giuliani of drunkenly, I didn't misread that. I'm not the drunk one. He was drunkenly urging Trump to declare victory on election night and of leading a group of, let's call them kooky advisors, others dubbed the crazies. Giuliani himself testified that he called Trump's White House attorneys, plural, there were a bunch of them, Dom, a bunch of, let's just say, wussies for FCC reasons, for refusing to go along with his schemes. And who would forget the unhinged post-election press conference in which Giuliani spewed baseless allegations about a massive conspiracy directed by Joe Biden as his own hair dye tried to distance itself from him. It was at the Four Seasons, wasn't it, Dom? Despite all that, Giuliani attempted to downplay his role this week in the legal effort to block Biden's win as he faced trial-like proceedings to determine whether he had violated the D.C. Bar Association's rules of professional conduct. Pretty sure.
Yes, he did.
During Monday's hearing, D.C. Bar officials argued that in 2020, Giuliani had weaponized his law license by filing a federal lawsuit full of baseless claims of voter fraud.
No, that's what the campaign told me, so what am I supposed to do?
Here's what the D.C. Disciplinary Counsel, Hamilton Fox, had to say. It was particularly egregious that it occurred in this case, that a meritless complaint was filed because it was an attempt to undermine the legitimacy of the presidential election. You think that's kind of a big deal, Dom?
I think it is.
One more quick thought. A New York state court already suspended Giuliani's law license for spreading lies about the 2020 election, Following testimony from Giuliani and other witnesses, which is expected to continue this week, the hearing committee will draft recommendations on whether his license should be suspended or revoked in D.C. as well. The report will go to the bar's full disciplinary board, then to the D.C. Court of Appeals in a process that could take months. During several hours of virtual testimony on Monday and Tuesday, Giuliani offered a defense that was multi-pronged, but perhaps not that well thought out. Here, Dom, are a few of his arguments I'm going to need your help, and I would point out. I watched a little Colbert last night. It was a virtual thing, so we see the testimony, and I saw the testimony. It got wrapped up, and Giuliani pulls back the sleeve and checks the time. You know, a good lawyer always writes down how many hours he's been at his diligent work, right?
Yes.
A lawyer as of today, and he noted to himself, why, I'm wearing 2 watches.
No, man, what the hell?
I've done some absent-minded dumbass things, Dom, but I've never in my life worn 2 watches.
Oh, come on, man. He's an attorney. That way you can bill twice as much. The nymag.com Crudy, just like Tucker Carlson, he was just asking questions. The disciplinary hearings are focused on the court challenge Giuliani launched in Pennsylvania in November of 2020, in which he suggested the court should invalidate, Michael, 680,000 to 7 million votes and let the state legislature declare the winner of the presidential contest. Several courts ultimately rejected this. On Monday, Giuliani pushed back on the idea that he should have had some very specific evidence of fraud before making such a bold demand. Here's what he said. You don't start a lawsuit being able to prove. I mean, you're very lucky when you do. You don't start a lawsuit being able to prove, but being able to responsibly allege, Giuliani said per CNN. I was responsibly alleging based on the things that were told to me by other people. I wasn't proving. I had a long way to go to prove.
I don't think he's met that threshold even to this very day, Dom. No proving. A lot of, would you call it responsible alleging going on, Dom? Or perhaps irresponsible alleging?
Well, I mean, isn't that the point, though? I mean, we know lots of attorneys, Crudy, and most of them take their jobs very seriously, their law license very seriously. It's one thing to have some, schmuck coming off the street and say, and allege all sorts of issues. But as the lawyer, you're supposed to be the one to filter those things out. What's your proof? Well, somebody told me. Okay, besides that, that's all I got. Sounds good to me, says Rudy. Let's do this. Because, of course, that was the whole point. As long as there was a headline, and Rudy Giuliani knows this, and all these other attorneys know this, and thankfully they're going to get their due. I mean, Dominion sued people for billions of dollars. It didn't matter whether or not it was true. They're playing the politics on it, but you said it. Now it plants the seed, and people pick it up, and they see it in a stream, and someone makes a meme out of it and puts it on Truthy Social, right? Now it becomes part of the vernacular. Well, this happened because, there's a court case. Well, that's the point. And that's why there should be discipline. That's why the attorneys licensed to practice this law should be disciplined when they do dumbass things like this.
You're just bitter because Rudy's LSAT stores got him into law school, and apparently now let's go according to the Intelligencer here. Let's go through a few of the excuses leveled by Rudy Giuliani during his disbarment hearings this week in DC. Well, of course, November 2020 was a crazy time.
It was crazy, let me tell you.
Giuliani's attorney, John Leventhal, pointed out that the Pennsylvania complaint was filed at a chaotic time, air quotes, when his client was busy coordinating litigation that alleged voter fraud in multiple battleground states, apparently without any sort of evidence, right? Reasonable allegations.
I mean, how hard is it to cut and paste a lawsuit? I mean, we saw some of the grammatical errors in different lawsuits filed around the country that referred to like Detroit when it was in another state.
Dominic, Leventhal said Giuliani had joined the Pennsylvania litigation at the 11th hour and had a reasonable basis to rely on the information he was provided by the Trump campaign and other third parties.
Yes, that sounds very Trumpy. Relying Relying on the experts, Crudy. Intelligencer goes on to write that Giuliani didn't even write the Pennsylvania complaint. Another excuse. Giuliani tried to distance himself from the initial complaint filed in Pennsylvania, claiming on Monday that he had contributed only 1 or 2 paragraphs. He said it was mostly penned by local attorney Ron Hicks, who withdrew from the case before it was heard by a district judge, though Giuliani was advising Hicks on what to say. I was giving Hicks language so that eventually we could have the chance to consolidate this case with other cases similar to it, so we can try to have one case go to the Supreme Court, Giuliani said.
Dominic, here was another one of the excuses he had in his disciplinary hearing. Maybe he had so much evidence of voter fraud, he lost track of it.
That's what it is. My problem, Crudy, honestly, I just care too much.
Would you say we have a plethora of fraud evidence?
Yes.
Giuliani. Anyways, here's what the Intelligencer writes. When asked if he turned over all the evidence that could possibly prove his post-election lawsuit wasn't frivolous, let's just say, Dom, Giuliani suggested that was impossible. As Bloomberg reports, Giuliani hedged when asked if the record of the disciplinary proceedings included all of the written evidence that supported his claims in Pennsylvania, saying his legal team had produced all that we can put our hands on. Boy, that's a high legal standard. But adding, but there's no doubt there's more. Fox asked where other documents could be if Giuliani didn't have them and the law firms that Giuliani worked with in Pennsylvania hadn't turned them over when they were subpoenaed. Giuliani suggested materials got lost as they handled multiple cases. I dog ate them.
Dog ate the homework.
During the hearings, Giuliani also inadvertently underscored what his mental focus isn't what it once was. At one point, he looked at his wrist and remarked with surprise, I have 2 watches on.
Finally, Crudy, what? What if the conspiracy theories are true? Giuliani still wants to believe that widespread voter fraud is the only reason Trump isn't president right now. Per CNN, Giuliani on Monday doubled down on various conspiracy theories about the 2020 election, including a claim that Black Lives Matter activists were bussed into Philly to vote illegally in the election. The claim was based on the declaration of an out-of-town hotel guest who observed a large group of people wearing Black Lives Matter gear at her Philadelphia hotel, and from a statement about the supposed scheme from an unidentified Uber driver. Giuliani provided the declaration to the D.C. Bar's disciplinary office at the start of its ethics investigation in an effort to show that the Pennsylvania lawsuit had a reasonable basis. Do you think that is reasonable evidence of fraud in the 2020 election in Pennsylvania? Fox asked. I don't know. We would find out. We would certainly follow up on this. We'll follow up on it. Giuliani also said he believes that he's been unfairly persecuted for years over his involvement in Trump's attempt to steal the election, adding Tuesday, I am shocked and offended this is happening to me. Oh, wow.
Well, those
poor guy.
His many, many excuses for his bad conduct as a attorney at law, Dom. I'm not sure what his new excuses are. There's another bad Rudy headline, hence why I think he should be included on the list of worst political weeks. Rudy Giuliani ally, widely believed to be a Russian spy, why he was charged with money laundering. Dom, a little of the reporting I find. Andrei Durkok, a pro-Kremlin Ukrainian politician whom American intelligence agencies believe is a Russian spy, has been charged with multiple counts of money laundering. Rolling Stone reports that Durkok, who infamously met with the former Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani in 2019 to push purported dirt on, wait for it, Hunter Biden, has been hit with 7 counts of money laundering related to his attempts to purchase 2 Beverly Hills condominiums. At least he's got good taste, right, L.A. Tom? Prosecutors allege that Durkok tried to hide his purchase of the condos by moving the $4 million through a shell corporation. Here's a quote, while participating in a scripted Russian disinformation campaign seeking to undermine U.S. institutions, Durcock simultaneously conspired to fraudulently benefit from a Western lifestyle for himself and his family in the United States, according to the Assistant U.S. Attorney Michael J. Driscoll in a prepared statement about the money laundering charges. You know, this guy's probably a spy, Dom, because even the Trump administration sanctioned this guy for being an active Russian alien for like a decade. Trump's kind of people. Only the best people.
Only the best.
Rudy's having a bad week. Come back, Devils.
Hi, it's Rudy Giuliani, and I'm on Cameo. Whoever says that is a stupid idiot.
I asked what kind of family she wanted. She said, a family like yours.
Learn more about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Aaron Mustovsky, who rioted at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, was dressed as Captain Caveman. QAnon shaman meets Law and Order.
Right. I mean, he pulled it off a whole lot better than Aaron Mustovsky.
Well, let me read a quote from the judge in this case. I hope you'll leave some of this fantasy world behind. Mustovsky was sentenced to 8 months in prison.
Looking at the guy, he might be one who loses his mattress on the first day. Breaking news.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
You are never far away from your favorite radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. And if you missed your favorite show or game, listen to a podcast of it anytime on the app or our website, civicmedia.us.
Here's your Devil Radio forecast. Mainly cloudy skies expected tonight with lows around 25. Winds out of the northeast 5 to 10 miles an hour. Overcast skies tomorrow, daytime highs approaching 39. A mixture of precipitation likely tomorrow night. Lows dip down to about 31. Cloudy skies expected. 1 to 3 inches of snow tomorrow night through Friday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 32 degrees.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up right now at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, a small victory for progressives and the defeat of Joe Manchin and some of his malfeasant obstructionist policies. A little bit of reporting at the rostery. Common Dreams initially put this up. It's being called a monumental victory. Dom, Manchin's industry-backed permitting reform has been defeated again. Here I read, progressive lawmakers in Congress and outside environmental campaigners celebrated a defensive victory overnight and into Wednesday after a much maligned oil and gas industry giveaway was left out of a major military NDAA spending bill introduced for passage in the U.S. House. We cannot and will not stop until Manchin's dirty deal is completely defeated. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap indeed, Dom. The darling of Senator Joe Manchin, Dem from West Virginia, the latest version of the Energy Security and Independence Act, ESIA, is permitting reform legislation for energy projects that critics have dubbed a dirty deal that would undermine progress to fight the climate emergency while exposing vulnerable communities to harmful impacts of new fossil fuel infrastructure. After failure to ram the proposal through earlier this year, Manchin hoped to ram it through with the approval of the fossil fuel industry back scheme that would undermine environmental protections and diminish the voices of frontline opponents opposed to damaging pipelines and similar projects by having it inserted into the must-pass National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA. But after weeks of campaigning by climate action groups and other progressives, and indications that Manchin would not find the necessary Republican support in the Senate, the proposal was absent when the House version of the NDAA was unveiled late Tuesday. So, count the small victories when you can, Tom.
I mean, we'll take it when we can get it, no doubt. But what are we talking about? An $858 billion defense budget? My understanding, 8% higher than fiscal 2022 numbers. Man, that interest, this inflation is really killing us, man. And look, come on, this is over the top. What are we spending this money on? I mean, for real. I mean, why are we spending another 8% of our defense money? Why are we going up to $858 billion? And I guess specifically that's 817 in Defense Department spending.
You expect Crudy to defend the bloated budget when it comes to defense spending? I'm like Bernie Sanders, man. I'm already against the next war. Cost a lot of money to kill people, Dom. We do it sort of indiscriminately with both our checkbooks and our moral compass. So anyways, I'm not down for the next war, dude. You know that of me. 844-967-2789. Here is some sad news. At least it makes me just a little sad as a homer. Jim Leonard, the coach that everyone thought was going to get the head coaching job here at UW-Madison, my beloved hometown university, although we're lacrosse grads, is not staying with the team. He's only going to be the defensive coordinator for effectively a bowl game on December 27th. We're going to play it out here on the Civic Media Network, 9:15 p.m. kickoff. Kind of a late game that night. Expecting coverage till about 2 a.m. that night on the pregame, postgame. But Jim Leonard, that will be his last act as a UW coach. He is leaving the program. Graham Mertz, the quarterback, leaving the program. But Braylon Allen from Fond du Lac, a local kid who's had 2 great years as a running back. Kid's only 18, staying with the program. That is very good news. But Jim Leonard's out. And that makes
I thought I saw some reporting that Leonard was staying around, and then like right away, immediately, like a day later, no, he's out. And did you see a reporting that said he was sticking around, or is that just me?
He is out. I
know he's out, but initially I thought I saw reporting that said he was going to stay with the team.
In negotiations that they were trying to be in talks or, come to some sort of compromise. It's also being reported today that the Badgers are hiring Phil Longo away from UNC, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He's going to be Wisconsin's offensive coordinator. So they're hiring, just not Jim Leonard.
Oh, that sucks. I know he's a hometown favorite.
Well, because he did it the Wisconsin way. The kid was a walk-on from small school, showed up, made good, made the team, became an All-American, had a 10-year NFL career. And for the last 7 years, maybe it was 9 years, Leonard's been waiting his turn, been doing all the right things. And it's just unfortunate, this circumstance. And I really do think that the UW athletic directors, the donor class, because this decision, Dom, was made by the donor class to the UW endowment. I mean, a lot of money was spent to fire Paul Chryst, to get him out. What, $11 million, something like that? And then we hired the new guy, $6.5 million a year. We got to buy out Jim Leonard's contract. We got to buy out the offensive coordinator's contract. But I really think it's about the expansion of the college playoff system. And I think the big dollar donors in the athletic department wants UW in that playoff each and every year. 21 consecutive years in bowl games. And historically, usually we're a top 15. If you're a top 12 team going forward, you're in the playoffs. That's all that will matter in the grandiose financial game that is college football. But it'll be a new defensive coordinator, a new quarterback, hopefully the same old running back. And I'll be cheering for him because, I'm a total homer.
You're a total homer. I want to throw this one out there too. Want to send some love, and it may not be what you think. Briefly here, seeing it on Yahoo News as reported by The Advocate. Authorities were called to Republican Senator Ted Cruz's Texas home late Tuesday over reports that a teen had self-inflicted stab wounds. Police told ABC affiliate KTRK. Cruz has 2 daughters, 11 and 14. The outlet reported that Houston police responded to called that a 14-year-old had stab wounds on their arms in the River Oaks neighborhood. The teen's identity was not disclosed. The teen was rushed to the hospital. This is a family matter, and thankfully their daughter is okay, a representative for Cruz told the Daily Beast. They added there were no serious injuries. The family requests that the media respect their daughter's privacy at this time. Cruz's eldest daughter shared on TikTok earlier this year that she was bisexual. And it's very tragic news. Young kids and bi kids have a higher suicide attempt rate than others, and so lots of love going out. Hopefully, she will get the support that she needs, and I think everybody can get behind that, regardless of who her father is. You hate to see kids that are struggling. You hate to hear this kind of news. So I just want to give a little love out for the Cruz family at this time.
Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates. Thank you to our fine guest, Bill Press. Don't forget James Santel tomorrow. Stick around. Native Roots Radio. Keep it locked. Civic Media.
All right. See you later.
Do you want Wisconsin to suck?